So we walked in, and there was a few members of the church who were already at the door smiling and greeting us, like you'd normally see at any church. And then as we walked through, there was a lot of Byzantine imagery. There were candles. The lights were pretty darkened, which was not something we usually see in the Coptic church, even in the liturgies. This, however, was a Vespers. And it was a pretty small church, so when we walked in, despite being small, it was definitely beautiful. The front of the church was amazingly built and put together. There were a lot of icons on the wall, and it's crazy I'm saying that as an Orthodox Christian, but this church had icons of many different saints spanning across generations everywhere, all over the walls, some on the church. I think even a few on the seats. There were icons everywhere, and you can just feel the holy presence when you walked into this church. You could feel the presence of Christ and his holy kingdom. You could feel the saints looking back at you, all the martyrs, all the church fathers, all of them. They were all in that room as everyone began to take part in this Vespers. And what was funny to me is that this Vespers was already packed. At the Coptic church for the Vespers, even for the liturgies, it's usually not packed right at the start. But when we walked in, I'm not sure it was the size of the church or not, but this place was already packed. Everyone was ready for the priest to come out and begin the Vespers. So as we're sitting in the back, right, the Vespers finally starts. The priest comes out and the chanters start singing some hymns, but only for a little bit, because unlike the Coptic church, our Vespers mostly does the singing of hymns, the singing of scripture. This church, however, the Antiochian church, I'm not sure if it's like this in every Eastern Orthodox church, but in the Antiochian Orthodox church specifically, they're more focused on the reading of scripture rather than the singing of hymns. So they went a lot in between reading scripture and singing hymns. And although they weren't as loud as the Coptic church, I mean, not even close. The Coptic church, if you've been to our church, it's insanely loud. But this Antiochian church, they were very quiet, yet very holy at the same time. You can hear them, but just enough to where it isn't busting your eardrums. So as I said, they began singing hymns. These hymns were very beautiful. You can tell they were cultural based. Everyone was into it. Everyone was standing. Everyone was paying attention, like in the Coptic church. The priest came out and gave a sermon as usual. He started reading from the saints. He started reading from scripture. And then he starts giving some announcements for the church. You know, the usual, this is happening on Friday, the liturgy's tomorrow, yada, yada, yada. Just normal church stuff, right? We then got to